Hi everyone, it's Lindsay with High Altitude Astrology bringing you another video. And today I want to talk with you about Mars moving into the sign of Aquarius. And this is going to happen on March 30th at 1:42 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's tomorrow, which is Monday. And as you can see in the chart that I have pulled up, Mars is highlighted here at 0 degrees of Aquarius, 0 minutes. So Mars travels fairly quickly around the zodiac. It's going to spend roughly a month and a half in this sign, and it will leave the sign of Aquarius and move into Pisces on May 12th. So you can see here Mars at 0 degrees of Pisces. So about a 6-week period to have Mars moving through the sign of Aquarius. So want to talk about what that means. First, I want to share some key words for you about what Mars is. Desire, energy, and action. Mars rules Aries, and Aries is the god of war. So Mars has this type of energy. It's about action. It's about impulsive energy moving outward. And also it rules desire from the sense of what you might call a male energy within us all that wants to go out and conquer or go out and take action. So that's where the desire principle comes in. In the sexual sense of the word, it can be more of our like sexual nature and what we want to go after as far as that's concerned. So I'm going to read a little bit from Keywords from Paul Grell. He says, Mars is the planet of desire and dynamic energy, the planet of action. It shows the urge and energy to accomplish, build, and progress. One way to realize our desires is to work and earn. Through this, we develop the ability to hold our own against economic competition, gain self-confidence, and learn self-discipline. Mars is also the planet of war. Through war, we can experience hatred or heroism, killing or self-sacrifice, find courage and endurance we did not know we had. Besides the war with others, there is the struggle within for self-mastery. From the desire and action of Mars, we gain valuable experience which will ultimately teach us to use our energies constructively and transmute desire into will and healing power. Using this Mars energy can be either a great sinner and or / a great saint. A few basic keywords: energetic, enthusiastic, active, dynamic, impulsive, generous, assertive, aggressive, courageous, heroic, expressive and frank, independent, self-reliant, generative force or transmutation, forceful and bold, venturesome, fearless, strong desire, devotion, possessive, attachment, practical, constructive, or definite, determination. And some of the negative expressions, as you can imagine: domineering, defiant, violent, combative, egotistical, sarcastic, obstinate, passion, coarse, cruel, rash, loud, hatred, jealousy, destructive, and extreme. I'm going back to passion because I don't necessarily feel that's like a quote negative expression, but these keywords actually go across in a stream. So like the basic principle is generative force, the positive is transmutation, and the negative is passion. And I think what that's suggesting is that if we're ruled only by our passions, only strictly by the desire principle, then we won't necessarily produce the other opportunities, which what this is saying is transmutation, the generative force expressed as transmutation, being able to transmute. That's an interesting word. Let's get a definition on that real quick. It's almost like being able to move past something, to mutate beyond what it is. The action of changing, or the state of being changed into another form. So it's just suggesting that this principle of generative force can be used more to transmute rather than just to fulfill your passionate desires constantly and always. Okay, so that's Mars. Now, Aquarius, I talked a little bit about Aquarius in the previous video that I made on Saturn moving into Aquarius, which I'll talk about the two of these planets together, which is coming up shortly as well by transit of Mars. But Aquarius is all about being an individual and being humanistic or humanitarian. It's about being original. Aquarius is inventive. It focuses on science and discovery and invention. Let me get a few more keywords to share here. Altruistic, cooperative, brotherhood, intuitive, progressive, occultism, persistence, and impersonal. So if we're taking action in these Aquarian type of ways over the next 6 weeks, I think one very obvious manifestation is going to be people continuing to come forth at this time in really positive, assertive ways to help out others during this COVID-19 pandemic that we are in. I think that's a very obvious way that this Mars in Aquarius is going to work its way out. And that's really positive, and you can already see some of that happening, but Mars is just going to come by and like infuse a lot of energy into that desire to help other people. Some other ways we might see the Mars in Aquarius manifest is to be able to take action in ways that are creative and in ways that are inventive, that can help out at this time as well. And you're seeing some of it, let's say, for example, with the response to how in some of the states they're needing to create more hospitals, so they can separate patients and prevent even more spread in that regard. So there might be just more creative ways that we are coming up with how to deal with this crisis. And that's, Mars is very good in a time of crisis because it's got the energy to respond, and it wants to take action and it wants to do. And so again, with this Aquarian energy, it's just going to be infusing the collective with a lot of new ideas as to how we can continue to help. There was the key word courage was related to Mars. And again, I think we're going to continue to see more and more people really being more selfless, because Mars is more self-oriented, but Aquarius is more, like I said, humanitarianly oriented. So it's an interesting combination to have this assertive energy, kind of asking Mars to take a little bit of the back seat as to why it's asserting itself, but still to bring that courage forward, but to do it in a way that is helpful and useful for everyone. Also, it talks about in the keywords that Mars, there's a struggle within for self-mastery. And Mars will ultimately teach us how to use our energies constructively and transmute desire into will and healing power. So I feel that this is kind of a theme that we're all collectively moving into as we move forward over these next 6 weeks and beyond. But at this time, with both Mars and Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, there's something about the will that we are learning at this time how to implement or how to use it in a way that's positive and not so self-gratifying, and in a way that where we can learn. It was saying, teach us how to use our energies constructively and transmute desire into will and healing power. So this is an opportunity for us to learn in every day that we are going through this experience collectively. How are we asserting ourselves? Can we think about the other? Can we take a step back in those moments where we just want to satisfy our own desires or our own urges, and use the opportunity to actually connect to the understanding of the need to really honor the fact that we are a collective, and that everybody is a part of it, and everybody needs to, in a sense, have their place. And this is a teaching time, a learning time for Mars to be able to begin to step up to the plate a bit and shed a little bit of that selfish energy for the betterment of the whole. And this is where I'll move on to the conjunction that Mars is going to make with Saturn pretty much right off the bat. After it moves into the sign of Aquarius, you can see on the 31st, Mars and Saturn both conjunct in the sign of Aquarius. So this may be where some more of the lessons or the teachings, because that's what Saturn's about, come into play with this Mars energy. Saturn might be saying to Mars, all right, here's where we need to really learn, how to express that desire impulse in a more humanitarian way. Also, to have Mars and Saturn come together, Saturn kind of slows Mars down a bit. It pulls the reins on the horses of Mars, in a sense, and it says, okay, we've got to slow down and take this step by step. Let's be practical. That's very Saturnian, and figure out where the best use of our Mars energy is. Because it contains Mars energy a little bit more, and asks it to just slow down a bit, so that we can really make the best decisions, really make the wisest decisions around, again, this expression of our individuality, but our originality and our unconventionality and our intuitive understandings and insights and originality. So I think Saturn's really going to help in this situation as Mars comes across, to just slow the Mars energy down a bit. But also at the same time, Mars could bring a little bit of energy to Saturn, and this is where we might actually see a little bit more of some resolution around some of these things that we've been hearing, let's say, for example, in the media, around the states needing certain supplies, and are they going to be able to get what they need on their own, or are they going to need the assistance and support of the government, Saturn? I feel like when these two come together, working together, that's what the conjunction's all about, that we may see more of a settledness to what's actually happening with all of that. And because, again, that these are happening in Aquarius, hopefully that's a symbol that a lot of these needs are being met. Saturn deals with structure and form, and Mars, again, being desire and action. So hopefully there's something about the two of these coming together that will really express the responsibility, I guess, piece of things at this time in regards to, for example, those supplies, that there's something that gets kind of resolved or gets settled or is handled. So I want to express just a few ideas that came to me while I was brainstorming Mars moving into Aquarius. And I may have already touched base on a few of them, but we'll see what I come up with here. Being left selfish. I think I have talked about that already, but again, Mars is this desire principle, but in Aquarius, it's about thinking of everyone. So there's an opportunity here, especially as Mars moves near Saturn, to essentially sort of have Mars mature a bit and help us all to begin to think more and more about how we are a part of the whole. And I think also with this conjunction, I'm sort of jumping around here, but with this conjunction with Mars and Saturn too, there's, Saturn is discipline, Saturn is form, Saturn are the rules. So we will see more and more too at this time of how it's necessary for us to follow the rules. And here comes the action energy of Mars, implementing the rules in relationship to the whole or the group. And so maybe we will just see more people taking this, stay at home directive more seriously than they have. I mean, many of us have been, but there are certainly people there who kind of, want to be rebellious. That's Aquarius. And we might be seeing, there may even be at this time more directives coming down from the government that are telling us, we need to even tighten the belt even more in order to prevent more spread. But yes, becoming less selfish, tempering our ego. Mars can be highly connected to ego energy because it rules Aries, which is about like self-assertion. It's the me energy of the zodiac. And so I think with Mars and Aquarius has this detached stepping back. It's air energy. There's no emotion really there. It's more about like the logistics and the science, or how is this all going to function? That's what Aquarius wants to know. So I feel that Mars being in the sign of Aquarius, especially at this time, is a positive symbol because it's going to help us kind of step back from such a self-centered perspective and temper our ego and allow us to take action in ways that are less connected to those selfish desires, basically. I think another way that this Mars in Aquarius conjunct the Saturn in Aquarius could manifest is that there could be some fear, that's Saturn, around our action that creates more rebellious energy, that isn't necessarily the healthiest way of expressing this Aquarius energy. Because Aquarius can just be that rebel, wants to just do the opposite just because they're being told to do something. So that may be coming from sort of a fear-based energy with the Saturn, like, well, are my freedoms going to be taken away at this time? Or, no, I don't want anybody telling me what to do, the authority to Saturn telling me what to do. And I saw an interesting thought on Instagram from somebody that I followed the other day, and it said something, and I'm paraphrasing, to the effect of, even rebelling is actually a reaction to the status quo. So when you realize that you're still being controlled by the status quo because you're rebelling against it, whether you're following it or you're rebelling against it, you're still identifying yourself with it and being controlled by it. And then the point was in the quote that the point is to create, to be unique, Mars and Aquarius, to be a unique individual, but not because you're reacting against some authority, because you genuinely have an idea that is useful to the group. You know, you genuinely have, uh, well, basically that, you know, some kind of inventive way of understanding or thinking about something. So then the action, Mars, comes more from a place of your own individuality and your own freedom, but it's not an egoic Mars reaction to what you're being asked or told to do. Because again, that is still being controlled by the status quo. I thought that was a very clever perspective. All right, let's see what else is happening with Mars as it travels its 6 weeks through the sign of Aquarius. One thing that's coming up is on April 7th, Mars is going to square Uranus. Now, Uranus rules Aquarius, and Uranus is in the sign of Taurus. So there's something here that's saying the Mars in Aquarius energy is connected in some way to the fact that Uranus is in Taurus at this time. So let's talk about Uranus and Taurus real quick. Uranus is all about change. It's sometimes shocking change, like what we're going through right now collectively as a society with the COVID-19 pandemic. But it kind of shakes loose the established order. And in order to progress us, there is a purpose, even though it may seem like chaos or randomness. It actually does want to evolve us as a society. That is what all of the outer planets do, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But Uranus specifically wants to shake us loose from our patterns, from our the structures in our society that have kind of contained us and confined us, and it wants to establish some new kind of order that's best for evolving. Now, specifically, Uranus is in Taurus. Taurus is about what we value, for one thing. How we relate to each other. It's about our relationships. It's about our personal and self-worth. These are all Taurian things. So what Uranus and Taurus is suggesting is that our values are being really shaken up right now. And if it's for the purpose of evolving us, I mean, one thing you can see, for example, is how what we're going through right now, collectively having to stay home, we're not able to go out and do all the things that we normally do that bring us pleasure. That's Taurus. And in turn, those not doing those things is actually having an effect on our environment. Taurus relates to nature also. And so you can see that the air quality is getting better, and the pollution of the oceans is getting better, and all of it. So in some way, Uranus and Taurus is helping us to, through shaking us up, it's helping us to evolve our relationship to nature. It's helping us evolve our relationship to our values and to what we value. Because who knows at this point, but I think it's going to be a lot harder financially for people to go back to spending money the way that they have been if this, lasts for any length of time. I think there's still a question as to whether or not the investments that people have are really going to be secure moving forward. And I'm not saying any of this to scare anybody, but I'm just saying there may be a reality where we just can't behave in the same way that we were before. That may be the new reality. But also psychologically, it's possible that those of us who've used this time to self-reflect and to think about how we've been living our lives, that maybe there are ways we can continue to choose to behave as we come out of this that stick, that don't have the same environmental impact as they had been, because we're not going to do them as much. So this is Uranus and Taurus. Now, what's happening is Mars in Aquarius is coming by and squaring Uranus and Taurus on the 7th of April. Now, again, Mars in Aquarius is taking action in a humanitarian way, and it's squaring, it's challenging. that Uranus and Taurus. In a way, that challenge energy is very Uranian anyway. You know, the square, it's like both energies are trying to express themselves, but they're having trouble because they're kind of bumping into each other, and they're, you know, there needs to be some action taken in order to resolve that conflict of energy. So you know, what could happen here is that we're just being made more aware of how we need to take action in new ways in order to really move forward with supporting this Uranus and Taurus shakeup and change that's happening. You know, we may need to really understand and take on more of the integration of the Mars action energy and start putting our will and our desire urges into these more humanitarian ways of behaving, which may, you know, stimulate some of this Uranus and Taurus, like, well, I can still do whatever I want. That's Uranus. Freedom, freedom, you know, and, but it's, you know, it's the Mars in Aquarius is trying to say, yeah, but look, you know, look at how we need to change collectively. So that's kind of a general expression of this Mars in Uranus energy. Because of the square, some of the more negative aspects of the two planets can rear their heads, you know, so there may be some arguing Mars, you know, energy, and Uranus is very unexpected and very sudden, and also a little bit out of control, you know, so this could be somehow some sort of arguing about you know, the financial issues right now that are up for the country, because Venus rules money. Again, Venus rules our values, literally the material things in our world. So it could potentially manifest in as some sort of disagreement or argument or something that's coming up. But again, you know, Mars in Aquarius is pretty cool-headed. So I almost see these two as kind of getting along, because Mars in Aquarius with Uranus ruling Aquarius, you know, there's a similar energy there that could prevail, where this becomes just more of like an adjustment time, where we're realizing the adjustments that have to be made in order to really act in more humanitarian ways. And perhaps some of the materialism that needs to be continued to kind of shed and let go of at this time. All right. I think that's about all I want to say about Mars in the sign of Aquarius at this time. Again, it's all the way in there until May 12th. So enjoy your Mars and Aquarius time. Hopefully this video has helped you reflect a little bit on what you might expect and what you might be able to be becoming more aware of within your own life, because that's really what astrology is all about. It's helping us awaken our consciousness. It's helping us to become more aware and in tune with what's really already happening. And so if we can align ourselves more with these energies, we can have a little bit of an easier time, and we're not resisting so much what is occurring. Thank you so much for watching. If you like my channel, please subscribe. I really appreciate it, or share this video with somebody else that you think might appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Please take care of yourselves.